Welcome to another episode of the Bandage Podcast, a weekly wrap-up of the most trending healthcare news. Each week, join me and my co-host Alex Ross as we'll discuss the latest in healthcare, health IT, and compliance. In this week's episode, we discuss health concerns for algal blooms, stents for breathing issues, health trackers for cows, and the CareView app for doctors. Let's wrap things up. This is episode 16 for the week of January 20th. I'm Matt Moneypenny.
And I'm Alex Ross.
Before we get started, our diagnosis code of the week is V98.2, Accident 2 on or involving ice yacht.
What does that even mean?
I don't know what an ice yacht is, but that is sweet. Where can I buy one?
I'm going to have to search this one because I feel like there's something we're missing here.
Ice yacht, that's sweet.
What is an ice yacht? Accident on or involving ice yacht. That's what it says.
Wow. Well, has anything happened to you with an ice yacht before, Alex?
It seems to be some kind of transportation accident. And as best I can tell, I believe this has actually happened to me.
Oh.
It's not entirely clear, but we're just going to assume that we mean an accident caused by ice while on a yacht,
no,
right?
Ice yacht.
An ice yacht.
It's literally a boat made out of ice that happens to be a yacht.
Yeah, well, my hands froze trying to raise the sail.
Oh, well, there's no sails on a yacht.
They fell off. That's why I do podcasts now, because I can't type.
That's good. Well, let's cruise right into the news here with that. First up, we have budding health concerns for algal blooms. University of Florida researchers are conducting a study to find a potential correlation between toxins in algal blooms and human diseases. Algal blooms produce toxins and are the result of an accumulation of algae and cyanobacteria in lakes. The hope is to find scientific data of how harmful the toxins are because people could then alter their behavior to avoid exposure. Concerns about the effect of algal blooms on human health have existed for years, but it increased in 2016 because of their massive growth in some Florida areas. The concern isn't only for humans, but also for livestock and pets.
Right, so normally humans aren't going to be
the ones
as affected
right.
by algal blooms, but it definitely makes me think back to this past summer when I heard a lot of stories about like family dogs who went swimming in some not so clean pond and ingested a lot of the water while they were swimming, and it ultimately led to their death because of these toxins that algal blooms are producing. So it's certainly a concern, and I want to know more. It's about time someone studied this.
Right. I feel like there's probably a lot of research on it, but recently there's been such an increase in them that they don't really know what to do about them outside of what they already know. So it's always good to see some more research come along. And stay away from red algae. Anytime you see red algae, it's bad news bears. So stay away from it. And
I think it's pretty fair to just say don't go swimming in a nasty looking pond.
Well, yeah, that too. And it's also like, I mean, if you're in like something and there's running water, it's usually a little bit cleaner because it's running. It's constantly. It's not just sitting. It's not just stagnant in this bog. So
right, but I mean, even in bodies of water which have some kind of current, I mean, I'm thinking like the lake. You know, Great Lake, Lake Erie has algal blooms.
I heard it's a great lake.
It's a great lake. One of the best, really. It's at least top 5 of the greatest lakes
in America.
But don't drink water out of unclean, dangerous areas, potentially. I mean, running water certainly is a better option, but it's my hope that the people who are listening to our podcasts are not necessarily running around the woods drinking water out of little standing pools, but
correct.
Certainly keep that in mind for potentially your livestock or your pets, and try to avoid letting them ingest a whole bunch of this potentially highly toxic water.
Don't let Fido drink from the pond. It's one of my favorite nursery rhymes.
Next up, 3D printed stents. The Food and Drug Administration, FDA, approved patient-specific airway stents developed by a Cleveland Clinic physician. These stents are designed using CT scans and 3D visualization software. The lung stents are matched to the exact specifications of a patient's natural anatomy, and this enables the opening of airways of those with serious breathing disorders. The stents are molded from patient-specific dimensions, printed using a 3D printer, and injected with medical-grade silicone. They've shown greater acceptance by the body, increased comfort, and improved performance outcomes.
Wow.
So interestingly enough, I've actually met this doctor. And
are you serious?
Yeah. True story. Unlike a lot of our other stories that I tell you are true, this one is 100% true. I had a family member who was fighting a lung cancer, and they're from out of state, but they came to the Cleveland Clinic because of this doctor and his work with stents. So essentially what was going on is this tumor was in a place where starting cancer treatment could potentially cause it to become inflamed and close off the airway. And so they came to this doctor to have a stent put in because, frankly, he was the best out there.
The stent guy.
So I'm not surprised to see that we're getting an even bigger advancement from the Cleveland Clinic related to stents and airway support devices. And it's super cool. I've met this guy. He's a great doctor and super friendly. I'm excited about it.
I think when 3D printers first came out, people were talking about how many doorways this opens and how excited they are and blah, blah, blah. And a lot of it just seemed like science fiction. But it's actually getting to that point where we're starting to do some pretty intense and unbelievable things that are great for human health and other technologies just with 3D printing. I mean, who would have thought that you could just create stents out of thin air with this printer? Like, that doesn't make any sense. It seems so abstract. What's a stent,
though? I mean, it's some rigid support material that just kind of sits there and holds something.
Right, but it has to be like sterilized and able to withstand everything that goes on in the human body and movements and stuff like that.
So I think typically we would have seen that made out of like some kind of titanium or I don't know, maybe it could have been a printed thing, but this technology takes it to the next step, which is modeling it for specific patients so that it is, best suited for their situation, their bodies.
How expensive do you think they are?
That I don't have inside information on. I gotta imagine it's pretty pricey considering the market's pretty cornered.
Can you pick the color of the stent that goes in your body?
Would you?
Vanity stents. Don't steal my copyright.
No, they're just imbibed with different materials so that when you do an X-ray, the stent shows up on the X-ray in different colors.
Yeah, exactly. I got a diamond-encrusted stent in my body. It's a new rap song. Next up, holy cow, I can track my cow's health. Researchers at Tarleton State University's Southwest Regional Dairy Center are using devices similar to Fitbits to track health habits of dairy cows. Tracking a cow's eating, sleeping, and movement helps with taking better care of the animals. The device tracks how long cows eat, how long they lay down, how many steps they take. Another wearable device monitors how much milk each cow gives. The data warns dairy producers that a cow may be sick before it starts showing symptoms. This also helps lower costs for medical care and increase production time for the cow. The device also frees up time for the producer who can tend to other business instead of monitoring their herd visually.
I have a Fitbit. I may actually be a dairy cow.
Turns out I'm a dairy cow this whole time and I'm living in a weird reality.
No, but they are expanding like health tracking devices into the animal
wearables.
World. I know that it's already out there. It's pretty common that you can find devices to track your dog's health behavior.
Yep.
The most I was looking at tracking collars for my dog who could potentially get out of the house and run away. So I was looking at different options for tracking them, and a lot of them actually have health tracking technology, like how long they're sleeping, how long they're active, how many steps they take. I guess the question is, do dogs need a recommended 20 steps a day instead of the humans 10,000?
Or quadruple it because they have... Oh, wait.
Because they have twice the number of feet. Same with cows.
I definitely did not do the math right there.
I appreciate, though, that they are going at the angle of potentially detecting a sickness before the cow would start showing symptoms. With a lot of livestock-type animals, they're sometimes really hard to diagnose with a health issue because they're so good at just hiding that as an animal that would not necessarily be very high up on the food chain. They are the food chain. For the most part, cows, I mean, despite the fact that cows are big, they're prey animals.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
They don't fight with other animals so much.
Just kind of hang around and
I think
eat.
of like rabbits or chickens. All of those animals are really good at hiding the fact that they're sick, because if you're sick, you are more vulnerable to being attacked. And you certainly don't want that. You don't want the rogue wild animals hunting you down just because you're sick. So that's really cool that we can potentially improve their quality of life by tracking this information and knowing things about them before it gets to a point where we can actually see the issue.
What do you think that this Fitbit is called for cows? I think it's called Moobit or Move It. Also, do you think that eventually they're going to start creating wearables for almonds, because there is also almonds that produce milk? There's like 1,000 milks now. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens if cows are the ultimate or the first kind of beta wearable for animal outside of dogs. I wonder where else the livestock can benefit from this.
I'm pretty sure that we've already got something similar for horses. I'm imagining it as something like a little box that you put on their halter, and it just sits there and tracks their movement when you go out for a ride and
their
whatnot, so you can see minute. Kind of HPM. That's right. All right, we're moving on. Next up, CareView app frees up time for more patient care. Indiana University Health created an app for emergency department physicians that's designed to reduce the time it takes to retrieve patient information. The CareView app connects to the Indiana Network for Patient Care and the Indiana Health Information Exchange. To use it, the physicians select the patient's condition when they visit the hospital. The app then retrieves the patient's test results, notes, and other information that's relevant to their condition. There's so much information available for most patients, and sifting through all of it to find the most important data can be very time-consuming. But with CareView, doctors can find information in less than 10 seconds, freeing up more time to interact with patients.
Yeah, anytime that you can save doctors time, obviously it's a little redundant, but it's very, very helpful, because doctors are probably one of the busiest people, and they're getting a lot of symptoms of burnout. They're just kind of getting... Doctors have too many tasks that they have to do in a day, and what happens is at the end of the day, they can't see patients as much as they'd like to, when that is their main goal, right? They don't want to have to go in and enter data their entire day. That's not what their job is. Their job is to take care of patients. So anytime that you can create something, some sort of innovation that saves them time, it's a good thing.
I see this being a good potential for AI as well.
Correct.
In kind of like comparing a patient's history with their current condition. And obviously, like, the goal is to show you relevant information, but perhaps an AI type system could also show you like suggested information. Like maybe you should check for these things. Maybe, we haven't checked their blood pressure in a year. You should probably check that now, considering their current condition. And it could be potentially helpful in just reminding physicians, doctors, assistants of things that they can do to help proactively improve their patient's health and give them better care.
I wonder if this could turn into something where it's like a crowdsourcing doctors network, where it's like if doctors see these patients that have these conditions, they can say, hey, this was helpful for this patient. Here's some resources that you can use externally. I don't know if there's any, maybe there could be some PHI concerns with that, but maybe not if they do it correctly. I think any kind of crowdsourcing would be helpful in the medical world. That kind of reminds me of
what we were talking about a few weeks ago with Google and getting into the health space and kind of analyzing the health records of everybody to come up with, I don't know, some kind of pre-indicators and information to potentially diagnose things better or more accurately or faster. And I think this group as well, the Indiana University Health Group, they are kind of setting the stage to do something similar, albeit without a big old Google.
With that, let's go on to our next segment. BREACH, Breach Patrol. It's a breach! All of the latest cybersecurity breaches. Welcome to Breach Patrol, where we talk about the latest breaches across all of the entire world. First up, we have introducing the new Samsung Galaxy data breach. Some Samsung smartphones in South Korea are reportedly being hacked, exposing private data such as text messages, photos, videos, and other sensitive information. Celebrities and public figures are the main targets. Hackers are collecting their private data and holding it for ransom, threatening to publish sensitive text if the owner fails to pay. The hackers are breaching a vulnerability in Samsung's system to gain access to the data. It's not clear how severe the extent of the hack is, and there's been no public acknowledgement of the flaw by Samsung. There is no report if Samsung has reached out to those affected and whether the cloud infrastructure breach is a regional or widespread impact.
Well, first the Samsung battery blew up, and now the Samsung security's blowing up.
Yeah, it's not a good look for Samsung right now.
Where is Samsung in this? I mean, are they just trying to keep it private? Kind of
like trying to hide it under
they're
the rug?
contacting people privately, but they're not coming out with any kind of statement. Who knows if they
I'm surprised
fixed it
that
yet?
none of the celebrities have really come out and been like, hey, Samsung, because you know how they love to rally the troops, and
to be
especially
fair,
on social media.
This is all happening in South Korea, so it may be a much bigger story over there, but they're not really celebrities here in the United States for the most part, so we're not hearing that information.
Though it's getting there with K-pop. You a big K-pop fan? Because a lot of K-pop stars are starting to get popular in the States. So.
Right. So if one of them gets breached, then we may hear about it a little bit more. But I feel like stateside, they're just kind of like, shh.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
we'll fix this. Shh. I think in this case, Samsung is liable for righting this kind of wrong. You know, if they can't get the data back or prevent the hackers from being able to use this data, I feel like Samsung is the one who has to pay the ransom, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it was a fault in their system, something that people believed and were kind of told was secure that exposed them to this.
What's interesting is it's kind of a form of ransomware. It's like a small form of it because they're not locking the phones of these celebrities as far as we know. They're just taking their photos and saying, hey, pay me or I'm going to expose this stuff. Which also makes me wonder what they're trying to expose. What is on these celebrities' phones that is worth exposing?
This is more, it's like blackmail.
Yeah, it's like it would be, I mean, I guess it still is ransomware, but it's not really malware.
It's not ransomware in the way we think of ransomware.
Right. It's pretty much just blackmail. Blackmailware.
Right. It's not cutting off your access to the information.
Yeah.
It's just that we've got it.
Yeah, we've got it. And they send you a ransom letter. Yeah.
We need a better word for this, like blackmailware. Just doesn't flow off the tongue the way it should. Next up, baby's first data breach. Thousands of baby photos and videos were left unsecure and exposed to the internet by the mobile app Peekaboo Moments. The app's developer BitHouse Incorporated left an Elasticsearch database open on the internet. Other exposed information includes at least 800,000 email addresses. The app also transmits sensitive data for babies, such as a growth tracker for length and weight, and their birth dates. Another field shows that the app records location data, which is accurate within about 30 feet of an individual's location. It's unclear how long the server was left unsecured or who may have accessed the data.
What's ironic here is that the app's name is Peekaboo Moments, and the hackers are getting a peekaboo into these babies' data. But could you imagine, in a serious note here, being born and within months of you being born, your data's exposed? Yeah, what in the world? What do we live in right now?
Well, but this comes down to the way the parents are sharing the information. It's obviously not something the baby went and signed up for.
Yeah.
We see this kind of thing happen literally every day voluntarily. And it bothers the crap out of me when I see it, because I'm getting to that age where a lot of the people that I grew up with, a lot of my friends are now starting to have kids. And with like social media especially, they're just posting constantly. Here's a picture of my baby. We went to this place. He's now this big. His birthday was this day.
The tail of the tape.
All of this information.
3 foot, 20 pounds.
Right. I can find all of this information just freely given on their social media pages. And so, obviously this breach is a bad thing. We don't want this to happen. But at the same time, I'm betting a lot of these people, because they're probably around the same age group, have already exposed themselves in other ways. And this is just one more brick in that wall.
Yeah.
So, listen, if you are of childbearing age and you're raising children, don't go putting all of this information on the internet. It's just not safe, okay?
Right.
There are potentially bad people who could potentially do bad things.
Yeah.
Share it with your family and friends. Share it privately. But there's no need to constantly be providing health information and, specific demographic information about your child online.
Out of everything in this breach, even beyond the 800,000 email addresses that were breached, is the accurate location within 30 feet of an individual's location.
That's really concerning.
Really creepy.
Right.
That's bad news. Right.
Now, granted, Facebook does the same thing. Facebook and Snapchat. And
also,
if
it's a parent, but
right, it's tracking the parent, but considering what they're sharing and posting, I can assume that this person's location. So other apps do it too. Mm-hmm. This one just breached it in a way that was not by design, whereas all the other ones are doing it by design, right? So think twice before you go downloading all of these fun new hip apps. They may not be the safest option, and you really got to be careful about what's going online. Mm-hmm. I mean, when I was a kid, I basically didn't exist to the rest of the world until Facebook came out, and I was already 15, 16, 17 years old. Mm-hmm. But now we've put these children's entire lives online. I mean, people who have never met your kid knows enough about them to be able to, show up.
Start a conversation with them when they can speak.
Well, just show up at their school and say, "Hey, Billy, your mom name told me to come get you. How was your, dinner yesterday at Arby's? I saw that on that you went to Arby's yesterday." And it's enough to instill that trust and potentially open up a different kind of breach, a much more serious and very, very dangerous breach. So don't do that. Protect your loved ones. If something like this happens, let it be not by design.
Think beyond the likes and social interaction.
Exactly. And I would urge your family and friends to do it too. I mean, let them know that there are potential risks associated with engaging in that type of social media use, and they should be aware of it, and they should take necessary steps to stay safe. And that's it for this week's wrap-up of your weekly healthcare news. I'm Alex Ross.
And I'm Matt Moneypenny.
And we'll see you next week. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of The Bandage. This week's episode was written and produced by eTactics. eTactics is a leading revenue cycle solutions organization committed to providing innovative, web-based solutions that improve our clients' cash management and customer relationships. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.